Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's Anarchy Analysis results and predictions video. Today we're covering week 4 results and the predictions for week 5. Now this should be a very interesting set of games to cover, and one at which I'm looking forward to greatly is there's been some great games in week 4 overall. So, game 1 this week is XL versus Vitality, a matchup that we went with Vitality in, but what ended up happening was XL winning with their very strong AoE team fight and a bit of poke in with the Ezreal, whereas Vitality drafted a catch and pick team with the Thresh, with the Corki and the Scion, as well as an Ashe that also provided a lot of poke and harass. But the game went very easily into XL's hands, controlling the kills, whereas Vitality got the early objective control around Drake's and the first Herald. But when we get to the middle of the game, it's pretty much a stalemate, and XL break it open with Patrick getting this very saucy pick onto the ADC on Vitality's side, and when that happens, the game opens up in XL's favour. They're able to secure objectives. Yes, Vitality eventually sneak a Baron and it kind of fizzles out XL's attack for a bit, but XL managed to turn it around once they get Infernal Soul. They get that buff. We also see Secret Agent Cries outrunning 4 members of Vitality, and that kind of sums up this game. After the stalemate fight early, Cries is just able to outrun 4 people, and the rest of his team just secure inhibs and turrets. It's very nicely done by Cries, and this essentially wins XL this game. Game 2 this week saw Mad vs Schalke in a very back and forth game, considering the placings of these two teams, as it's first against last in the LEC. And well, early game we saw Schalke pick up first blood and then control the objectives from there, and they were stuck on the 3rd dragon, or soul point as everyone else calls it, for quite a long point of the game. But fights around the dragon started going in Mad's favour, and Gilius, who was playing jungle for Schalke today, got caught out around the river not once but twice, and essentially Mad punished him and kept punishing him, and they clawed themselves back into this game, taking dragon after dragon. Then Mad obviously win another fight. When you do that after 20 minutes, chances are they're going to go straight to Baron and take it, and eventually what happens is Mad secure Baron and they go pushing. When we see them push, kind of misplays out of Schalke kind of cost them quite a lot, as Dreams' Nautilus realistically didn't land too many hooks. He kept missing on the targets narrowly, and that did cost quite a lot of this early game advantage that was picked up for Schalke. Whereas we also saw Gilius, granted, making some flashy plays, picking out Humanoid in fights and killing him off, but he also was mispositioned quite a few times in these fights, and when you're meant to be the pincer or the flank in a team fight as a Lee Sin, you want to be landing your Sonic Wave and then kicking the carry into a champion. But when you just walk out of the brush when Mad aren't even on the Drake and haven't seen you yet, you know that you're messing up this game badly, and essentially because of the mistakes coming out of Schalke here, Mad pick up the win in a very undeserved, I would say, for the first half of the game, but deserved for the latter half of the game. Up next was a pretty hard match for me to predict, but I did go in the end with Fnatic, as they took on SK. Now, Fnatic have been on the downer recently, 2 weeks, no wins, whereas SK had a pretty alright 2 weeks, as they did pick up wins against G2, and it was a very nice set of games though. As for today's game, SK drafted a very heavy poke comp with Ziggs being picked into the mid lane. And Fnatic obviously responded with a split push and a heavy engage comp with Nocturne and Urgot into the lineups here. Now, this game opened up when Fnatic responded to a lot of pressure on a roaming Nocturne on their side of the map who was trying to get back to his own jungle, but SK caught him out, and what eventually happened was the return pressure from Fnatic being too much for the members of SK that were down there. It gave over first blood to Fnatic, and from there we saw Fnatic just roam the map as they set up plays in the mid lane. Granted, they had a TF mid, you wouldn't expect them to roam there in order to get a kill. You'd expect the TF to go to other lanes, similarly with the Nocturne. But from that play, they immediately roamed up topside, got a kill up there, and eventually we saw Fnatic get a very big gold lead. But SK were not out of this. They managed to control the objectives very nicely as they managed to secure Soul with a very hard and, well, a very good engage onto an overstepping Hylissang who gave over the soul point Drake as Selfmade had already been chunked out because his position was revealed to SK, and SK just punished them for the vision that they had gained. But Fnatic turned around once again, round the mid lane this time, and essentially what happens is Whippo gets a nice flank onto the carries of Fnatic, SK, and just is able to clean up the team fight, punishing all the members there and winning the fight as well as the game for Fnatic here. A very solid performance by this team, picking up their first win in 2 weeks, and yeah, I'm itching to see how they perform tomorrow. Well, the next game of the day was the Battle of the Baby Origin against the actual Origin. This battle was very, very close and realistically could be seen as a bit of a siesta slash fiesta as both teams drafted quite differently. Rogue drafted a very heavy engage comp that looked a team fight, whereas OG had a bit of team fight comp but with bit of pick, as well as a lot of disengage in the lineup with the Tom Kench and the Gragas. That being said, the game was very, very slow. Basically, OG and Rogue styles, when they're played against each other, you expect it to be this kind of slow. And the first blood comes from an extended 1v1 trade in the top lane, where we see TP flanks coming in from either team, and it ends with first blood going over to OG, and yeah. At that point, I'd already written very slow game because it's about 18 minutes in and it's 0-0. But OG kept picking off the Rogue bot lane, and they head straight to Baron from it in the mid game. And this kind of is the opening for OG to get themselves into this game, to sort of pick up the lead that they had kind of not gained or lost because of how stalled out it was. But Hans Sama, playing Syndra in this game, managed to pick the Baron off with his kit. He out-damages the smite from OG and steals the Baron. This is essentially Rogue turning on the pressure onto OG at this point, as they just start 1-3-1ing, getting as many turrets as they can, getting to the inhibs, while Rogue actually pick off some members here and there if they can. But 38 minutes into the game, Rogue managed to pick off Nuke Duck as the Baron respawned, and that essentially is a free Baron over to Rogue, and with your mid laner dead, the Baron should essentially win you the game, as well as picking up Soul for Rogue, which means this game goes over to Rogue. I didn't get this prediction right, sadly, but this was a very close, long, drawn-out game. It went over 45 minutes, and if you like these sorts of long, methodical games, this is definitely one for you guys. The last game on Friday was the return to the European top stage for Pinoy, playing in the bot lane for G2 as they took on Misfits. This game we went with G2 overall, and let's just say a bad TP early game gave G2 first blood, and with that first blood, G2 got rolling, and when you see G2 get rolling, they punish. Essentially what happened was they stopped Misfits from getting back to base, resetting in order to pressure G2. And well, with that pressure that G2 obviously accumulated, they managed to get the Kog'Maw fed, and with that fed Kog'Maw, he popped off and won the game for G2. Overall, very strong game from both teams, but G2 looked impressive with Pinoy's first game in the LEC. The first game on Saturday saw Rogue and SK do battle on the Rift, as Rogue drafted this AoE damage teamfight comp around mainly an Orianna, and SK went with a high engage comp, which obviously was there to kind of counteract the AoE by getting on top of the damage sources on Rogue's side. Now, in the early game, GP gets a solo kill top lane to get first blood for Rogue, as Finn takes down Genax in a very easy 1v1 matchup for him. And the best bit is when SK come calling 3 men top lane to keep the GP behind or put him behind to give themselves a bit of alleviation topside, he manages to trade it. A 3v1 and he gets a kill out of it. That is not the sort of thing that you want if you're SK. And when this happens, Rogue gets a very strong response to all of SK's pressure that SK tried to put out onto the map, and essentially with Rogue building up this lead against SK, Rogue get a very easy Baron, and they use this Baron to push for base and win this game. Once again, Rogue win this game, and that's another correct prediction to me. Up next is a game that actually was missed out in the original predictions video, but I do have on my notes I predicted Origin for this, but it was Vitality versus OG. And Vitality went for a strong teamfight comp, whereas OG went for a high amount of engage in terms of their teamfighting comp. And well, let's just say a poor dive early game gives over Vitality first blood, and this allows Vitality to start getting ahead. Although OG decide to start stacking Drakes, Vitality are able to stop the stack, and with a sloppy play by OG, that they get caught out by Vitality, and with this it allows Ezreal on Vitality's side to pick up the pentakill. I don't know if this is the first in the LEC this week or this split, but it's definitely a big thing to see in this week's set of games. And yeah, a big upset win here for Vitality. Now, last week I said for this game, if Fnatic do not stomp it, then this is a bad game, and it's kind of the downfall of Fnatic. And well, they took on Schalke, the winless Schalke, in a matchup here, and both teams drafted Engage, and a level 1 play for Schalke gets them ahead. They get a first blood here, actually surprising Fnatic, catching them off guard, and then it becomes a Schalke catching players out and using their jungle to get 3 kills, and then Baron into the later game, and then Schalke get picks in terms of just picking off each member of Fnatic one by one, and then they finally do it. They pick up their first win this split, upsetting many in terms of predictions, as no one realistically predicted this to happen. And let's just say this is a day of upsets, and this is the second of many. This was then followed by the Anarchy Analysis match of the week, where we broke down the final team fight between G2 Esports and XL. This game we did go with G2, but if you've watched the breakdown of that last team fight and how close it was, XL won this game and beat G2. The old guard of the LEC are falling, and the new blood in the terms of XL and Mad and Rogue are starting to rise up, and this was such a good showing from XL this game. Yes, G2 are playing with a sub, but it's still the 4 core members of G2 playing, and they still lost to a team that realistically are on the up and up here in the LEC. But there'll be in the description a link to the teamfight breakdown. It's actually taken me a lot of work. I'd be very appreciative if you did check it out. And for the last game in the LEC this week, it was Mad taking on the Misfits. This game saw Kobe technically go up against his former team, in the fact that this org in Mad used to be Splice. And well, let's just say the big thing about this game was the jungle fiddlesticks. Misfits picked this champion, and it was also with Unsealed Spellbook. Now, why am I harping on this? Unsealed Spellbook is not the traditional item or ruin page you use on a fiddle. You go for something like a Dark Harvest, maybe a Phase Rush, or something that gives you a bit of movement speed. Even some of the sorcery options are better than Unsealed Spellbook in most people's eyes, but Unsealed Spellbook made this champion work extremely well. And Mad and Misfits, they had 2 different styles. A lot of Engage was drafted by Misfits, whereas Mad had a lot of poke and disengage. We did see Misfits get a very nice double kill at the start of the game due to Kaiser recalling in Misfits' vision, and once he went back to base, it was doom for Kazi. And this game, Kazi kind of did not perform too well. Misfits dominated the bot side of the map, and Fiddle used his Unsealed Spellbook to perfection, as he used TP that he got from the Unsealed Spellbook to go top and get 2 kills, using his ultimate to perfections. And in 14 mins, Misfits absolutely wipe Mad off the board. This is a very heavy Misfits win in this current situation, and they continue to keep the game going in their favour. Though Mad do manage to respond with 3 kills, Misfits still controlled the map, and with that map control, with the everlasting threat of a Fiddlesticks fearing you behind a wall, this game was gone when Mad entered the Rift, and Misfits pick up the win against the top team in the LEC, as that rounds out our games here in Europe. The LCS was kicked off with 100 Thieves taking on Golden Guardians. Notable thing was Cassio in the mid lane for 100 Thieves, and Kennen in the top lane, returning into the meta in the top side of the map. And what is so good about this game was the early game. And when it comes to the first blood, a clutch Galio ultimate keeps the Tahm Kench alive. And with him staying alive with the magic damage shield that Galio ult provides, essentially it's an easy kill for Golden Guardians on an overstepping support of 100 Thieves. When that's picked up, the rest of the TPs come in because there's a top TP discrepancy. Hunter joins the fight on the cannon, he ults down 2, and that's another 2 kills, as well as a 4th kill coming into this fight as Casio feels the brunt of the AoE from the Galio ultimate. But that's not the end of this game, as GG are able to balloon the lead that they get from this as they soar straight through to the Drake Soul as they manage to secure an Ocean Soul with a fight around it, and then off of that go to Baron, secure that, and then start looking to chip away at the 100 Thieves base. Though they did face a roadblock slightly in a couple of fights, it wasn't enough of a blockage by 100 Thieves, as a nice split fight by Golden Guardians demolish 100 Thieves, and because of the roam tools the Galio provides in a fight, he's just able to bring the fight over to that side, kill off the support, kill off the top, and then the rest of 100 Thieves crumble with it. And thus, the game goes over to Golden Guardians just before the spawn of Elder, and that is a huge win for the Golden Guardians, in which I didn't predict. Lol. The last game on Friday Night League was C9 versus CLG. This was a very dominant game by C9, as a very easy solo top lane bait by Licorice secures first blood for C9 on his Wukong. Very nicely done, and from there the C9 dominance over this game showed through in the control of the map, as they easily style on C9 as they stack up the Drakes and get to Soul Point. On Soul Point, an amazing Lee Sin kick onto the Felios immediately kills him, so that there's no competition from CLG in the upcoming contest of the Drake, and C9 just kill them all before the Drakes even spawn, basically. And from there, you just know that C9 are going to finish off the competition. Bish bash bosh, C9 win this game, predicted correctly, nothing else to say. Day 2, it's kicked off with TSM versus Golden Guardians in a very interesting matchup for the battle for second place. TSM go for a very split heavy roam comp with the TF in mid for Bjergsen, whereas Golden Guardians have the protect the carry sort of comp where they're looking to protect their ADC, get them ahead, and essentially win the game off of it. And this game comes with a top lane bait first blood for TSM, as a very nice bait was set up by them to then use the jungle to roam, kill off the top laner, and you see the top difference in this game. TSM pick up one really big lead, and what we see is Bjergsen roaming hard top any chance he can, and they use it to punish him, get Broken Blade ahead. Broken Blade then becomes a very fed Ornn, and with Ornn really fed, you know you're going to be getting them ornaments very soon, very quickly, and very, very nicely. And with the split push meta that TSM are using, they essentially catch out members and use it to their advantage to split push the map and win this game. Up next is the Anarchy Analysis Match of the Week between 100 Thieves and Dignitas. In the bottom half of the table, we went with these two teams in a grueling matchup where I casted the entire game, so if you want to check out my opinion on everything that happened, be sure to check out that in the description. The winner of this game was the team we predicted correctly in 100 Thieves, in a very weird fashion, I do believe. Up next is the rematch of the Spring Split semi-finals between Evil Geniuses and FlyQuest, as these two teams take to the Rift in a very explosive style. Now, originally I predicted an Evil Geniuses win here, and well, we did not get that. We instead saw insane plays coming out of FlyQuest as Rakan, Ignar's special, I think is still undefeated, remained undefeated after this game, as FlyQuest pick up the win here in a very interesting style as they just punished the lanes. They win this game very nicely, and it was overall a very strong performance by these boys. The third game on Saturday was a IMT taking on Team Liquid. Now, IMT drafted a very strong engage comp versus the Team Liquid pick comp. Obviously, we see a very nice setup here by these two teams, as an Ash Arrow is used to hit the Herald to take and get first blood here for IMT alongside the Herald, as IMT get this game rolling nicely. TL though stacked the Drake to soul point with the Drake steal on the last one, overall making this game a bit more even, as it makes the contest for the last Drake so hard. IMT used the wombo combo though that they have with the team comp they drafted with the Ash Arrow, Ori Ball, and then some more CC lockup to allow them to stall for Drake Soul. And when that stall comes through, we get the 4 consecutive Drakes taken by IMT to get the Dragon Soul, and the only thing TL get is the Baron. And this game ends in an insane fashion. It comes down to the wire as a base race happens between these two teams, but IMT are caught napping. Tactical on the Aphelios just goes in straight to Nexus, and no one goes back for IMT to stop him, and thus Team Liquid win this game in a close fashion, a game that realistically should have gone over to IMT. The last game on the Saturday was C9 versus Dignitas. C9 picked a very roam heavy comp, whereas Dig had the strong engaged setup for a team fight comp. Dig controlled the early game until C9 turned a team fight win, and that pulled them ahead. C9 then use all the pressure that they've gained, because obviously at C9, once they get a lead, it's very hard for them to lose it. They secure Baron. Then C9 scatter Dignitas across the map, and they break the base with ease, taking down the bottom team in the league, winning this in a good fashion. Sundays kicked off with Fly taking on Team Liquid. Both comps have two insane things with how they play. Fly have a tankier team, whereas Team Liquid have a lot of squishy targets. And well, let's just say an insane level 2 happens, and it ends with 6 kills overall to split between the two teams. Fly have a tank though, as I've stated, and this allows them to control a lot of the game, and in fights they start winning them. That being said, Team Liquid end up stealing the Baron after Ezreal on the FlyQuest side misplays his positioning. He isn't focusing down the Baron, and is essentially just killed off by Team Liquid, allowing Broxah to come in and swoop away the Baron. Fly, however, do get the Infernal Soul after the Team Liquid Baron, but Team Liquid just rush FlyQuest base and ends the game with it, picking up the win here against the FlyQuest team that were just caught napping. This was followed up by El Clasico, TSM taking on CLG. These two teams are orgs that used to be at top, but now are kind of mid-table pack fodder battling out for second place. TSM draft a very scaling team fight with the Azir in the mid lane as their first pick, whereas CLG go for a more poke-heavy teamfight comp with the Corki as their scaling option. First Blood is a kill bot side for TSM, and TSM then use the pressure to get top lane ahead. Repetitive kills 3 times over on the top lane, putting Ruin behind drastically makes it so that TSM have a very strong top lane, whereas CLG focus bot and control the Drakes. However, Bjergsen's Azir just demolishes CLG in teamfights, and it does secure TSM a Baron, and TSM's zone control with the Azir just allows them to secure 4 Drakes and get the soul. And here's an interesting stat: since CLG's last Drake, TSM controlled 7 objectives in a row, which allowed them to win this game against their old rivals. The second to last game for this week is Evil Geniuses taking on IMT in a very do or die battle for these two teams, as both teams are looking iffy, I would say. EG especially are on the downer in my opinion, whereas IMT have looked better and better each passing game. Both teams drafted a team fighting comps, and the big thing to note is EG get the game rolling in their favour with a kill from a dive bot side, but what we end up seeing is IMT using their academy roster to perfection as Zalorum and Insanity use an insanely smooth and clean Azir and Urgot wombo combo as Azir Shurima shuffles back the mid laner from EG and it lands straight into the Urgot ult, and when them two tie together, a lot of damage comes out onto the mid lane for EG, and he gets executed with the ult from Urgot. However, that's the most action we're going to see for a while, as it's a very slow mid game, and the big thing to note is Urgot is getting very, very strong, and he is keeping Kumo at bay considerably, and the top difference is big, as what we end up seeing a split fight in the mid game, which gives IMT hope back into this game that they were technically losing due to the bot pressure from EG. And Ocean Soul does go over to Evil Geniuses, though IMT get the Baron off this play. We end up seeing the drastic happen as IMT somehow managed to, after getting turrets and turrets and objectives, secured Elder once the Ocean Soul went over to EG. But what ends up happening is they throw the Nexus fight. IMT are on the cusp of winning. They're in the base of EG. They're looking to end, but the fight goes stupid. They force. Insanity makes a kind of a brash play in my opinion. It wasn't needed, as the Azir tried to dive the Aphelios, who was just sustaining through all the minions that were pushing in for IMT. he goes for the hero play, but he gets killed off. Then the rest of IMT get killed off. Elder is no more, and the TPs come through for EG to pick up the win against IMT in a matchup they realistically did not deserve to win. With there being no LEC upcoming week, this is the last time we'll see the LEC scoreboard in a while, but this week we only scored 4 out of 10. I know, shock. So many upsets on the second day meant that we weren't picking up the wins we realistically needed, which overall does keep our grand total quite low to 26 out of 45, which isn't too bad to say the least, just under half today, meaning we are staying, well, we're falling back on where we should be. As for the LCS, you already know how it is, 8 out of 10. Add another 8 to our previous week's score, goes up to 32 out of 40. Only dropped 8 games. The irony behind that, so good. But yeah, big showing in the LCS, whereas the LEC not so much. Nonetheless, let's get into this week's LCS games, which we're breaking down. So we get into this week's set of games which we're predicting, starting with Dig versus IMT. This is a close matchup in my opinion, and one that I originally was going to cover as our Anarchy Analysis match of the week, but we've got a different one for this. And one thing to note, there is no LEC game, so we're only doing LCS. So Dig IMT, I am going with IMT in this one. IMT have been on the up and up in recent set of games with their roster, so this game I feel they should realistically win against a team that's underperforming. Following this up, it's FlyQuest taking on 100 Thieves. This matchup I realistically think is going to go to FlyQuest. I just see them as the far better squad. 100 Thieves realistically haven't done much this split, and they haven't picked up any big major wins to my record, but I've got to go with Fly. They're a strong squad. They look very good in terms of matchups that they played. Have been unlucky in last weekend and should do well this weekend. Following that matchup, it's a match that I've struggled to predict in my mind. It's Golden Guardians taking on Evil Geniuses. And the reason I'm struggling to predict this is because of Evil Geniuses' form in comparison to Golden Guardians. GG have actually looked semi-decent in the games they've played, whereas EG have kind of been hit or miss each week. And for this matchup, I don't know who I want to go with, but I've decided on Golden Guardians here. I just feel they'll out-edge EG in terms of the draft and actually pick up the win here. This is then followed by the Anarchy Analysis match of the week between C9 and TSM. I'm saving the banger Anarchy Analysis between the last two teams that we haven't covered this split for next week, as this week we have this matchup to cover. It's the Battle of the Ages. These two teams have gone to war in recent splits and it has been a close battle, while C9 has been the unstoppable force. Their last loss in regular split was to TSM, and TSM looked fire. Will they look fire in this game? Only time will tell as they take on this C9 roster that I've actually gone with. I have not gone with TSM this time. We then follow that matchup with another interesting bout between CLG and Team Liquid. This matchup I honestly didn't know how to predict, as these two teams have been quite shaky in their performances over the recent weeks. And well, for this one I've had to edge it out to Team Liquid just because I feel that they have the strongest set of players, though I wouldn't be too unsurprised if we see a Po Belter pop-off game. This is then followed by FlyQuest taking on Team Dignitas, a matchup that I feel there can only be one winner. That's got to be FlyQuest, as these two teams realistically are on a different level to each other. FlyQuest are a lot higher level than what Dig are, and Dig are struggling at the moment. Whether or not they make changes, only time will tell, but I've gone with FlyQuest for this game. The third day of action is kicked off with TSM taking on IMT. This matchup should be a battle of the ages. These two teams are quite good. IMT have looked better and better as the season's gone on, and TSM are just being that rock solid team everyone thinks aren't up to the standards anymore, but they're currently sitting in second place, and I think that TSM should win this game against IMT. Everyone likes short and sweet answers, and well, this one is a short and sweet answer for C9 versus 100 Thieves. I'll put it in 3 words: stomp, C9 win. Now, if you know me, I like to make a random prediction that's out of the world stupid, and this is going to be it. Team Liquid taking on Golden Guardians. I've gone with Golden Guardians here. I just think, I have a feeling they should win this game here. Granted, on paper they're not the better team, but in terms of cohesion and actual performance, Golden Guardians, I think, should outdo this Team Liquid in this matchup, and it will be a very interesting game to watch. This is then followed up by Evil Geniuses taking on CLG to round out this week's set of games. And well, I personally are gonna make another big shock choice here. You'd think I'd go EG, I've gone CLG. Reason being, I think this will be the Pobelter pop-off game. Last week he did struggle in his last game with the Corki, but I think he should perform this week very well. Well, that's going to be it for this week's predictions. I know this is a shorter one because obviously the LEC is on hiatus after the first half of the split. As I will usually say, I will end this by saying if you enjoyed this video, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new around here if you want to, and I will see you guys later. Also, leave in the comments your predictions for this split. Peace out.